Lecture 5, Honesty. In almost 40 years of working in product development and innovation, I've rarely heard this subject discussed. As scientists and engineers, we usually feel we are above this topic. Our training is rigorous, and normally our professions are held in high esteem, and we are well respected, and I would say deservedly so. Sadly, there are examples where the rules are bent and the facts manipulated for some purpose or another. As science moves to commercialization, there becomes an enormous vested interest in making money, either for personal gain or to reward those who have invested financially in our technology. There are cases in my experience where these things have gone unnoticed. However, when they are noticed, the world tends to come crashing down around the innovation and its creators. In my experience, some of the cases where facts have been misrepresented are listed here. There have been issues with safety and efficacy data, estimations of market size, misrepresentation of consumer or user acceptance, inadequate treatment of competitive activity, the strength of intellectual property, and sometimes the ease of regulatory approvals. In some cases, I've seen dishonesty entering a project early on, but often I've seen it come in later, sometimes in times of desperation. Projects need more funding. Deadlines need to be met. Sometimes it starts with a trickle and ends with a flood. I've seen examples where statistical data have been manipulated for specific outcomes. It might be due to funding and investment pressure, to get promoted within a large organization, or due to rogue marketing departments who see dollar signs. Sadly, far too few people are conversant with basic statistical concepts. And even if they were, it can be impossible to know the truth unless you go through all of the raw data yourself. Who has the time for that? But what you can do is look for some obvious signs. I received a histogram very similar to this from a lawyer, an outside counsel for a medium-sized OTC drug company. He said the marketing department from this company had sent him this histogram and wanted to use it in their marketing materials. They clearly wanted to make superiority claims to a competitor. He himself had no statistical background and sent this to me for review. I said to him the graph was completely useless and asked him to send me the y-axis scale. And this is what came. Look very carefully at the scale. I regraphed the data, and here is in fact what it looks like. A completely different picture. This was an example of using statistics to give an incorrect conclusion. It failed the test of total net impression. This is something that all innovators should memorize. The original histogram proposed by the marketing department of this company would give the wrong net impression of the performance of their product versus competitors. This concept needs to be carefully considered in everything a company does in portraying their innovations to the outside world. This includes words used in describing inventions, marketing and advertising materials, and everything associated with the true performance of their innovation. Another very desirable claim innovators often want to make when they're new in the market is as good as the market leader, or something like that. They can use flimsy and weak statistics to back up such a claim. I have had cases where I've asked for the underlying statistics and found they've used confidence intervals well below the 95 or even 99% we normally consider to show statistical significance in comparisons. Now, I've made these numbers up, but just for the sake of example, say you measured a parameter of your product and compared it to one of your competitors. It could be efficacy, consumer acceptance. In this case, say your average score was 2.52 and your competitor's is 2.98, where higher is better. Only 10 data points were recorded. Because the difference is not significant at the 95% confidence interval, the conclusion was that the products are equivalent. Eyeballing the data, you see two means that could very well be meaningfully different and relatively large standard deviations. I always say, know your data and generate much more of it if things are unclear. How many times I've seen cherry picking of the data. marketing materials based on whatever favorable parameters are derived from research, while totally overlooking or removing unfavorable parameters that could totally sink the ship. Quoting averages can be dangerous. Simple claims like, on average, our product was rated 9 out of 10, might hide a bimodal distribution of data. It's possible there could be a group of users who rated the innovation 2 out of 10. If so, these users need to be studied. Maybe there's a fatal flaw you need to uncover. Finally, claims like 80% of doctors recommend my innovation can be totally misleading. What in fact does this mean? Does that mean only 20% of doctors recommended something else? Or could it be the same 80% of doctors recommend other innovations as well? This type of claim can give the impression of superiority where none actually exists. So thanks for listening. Stay tuned to my next lecture on regulations.